It's such a valid point.
Because we have this habit of just starting into it.
You ever like try to argue with Sam and realise that he's just right? Piss take, isn't it? What a bastard. We should kick him off the podcast, realistically.
I mean, like, potentially.
What? The idea was kicking you out, and it's purely because we were upset that you were right too often. God damn it, he made another good point. Get the axe. Right, so my 5-word summary for World War III.
When do we fade in with this? Anyway, yes.
My 5-word summary.
But
actually, can I leave mine to last? I really
to
like
clarify,
mine.
in case you, for whatever reason, you didn't listen to the previous episode, we've just watched Aliens of London and World War III. In the last episode we discussed Aliens of London. This episode we are discussing World War III. So let's go on to those summaries.
World War III.
Star Wars.
What's your 5-word summary, Sam?
So I've gone with. Actually, no. Can I leave mine to last?
I just said that, but yeah,
I'll happily go first. Mine is space recession motivates space bush.
That's really true.
Okay, I'll do mine next, but I want you to know that I wrote this down when we finished watching and before we recorded anything.
Okay.
Harriet Jones, future Prime Minister.
That would be good to have it paired with the last one.
That's great. That's really nice.
On,
I have Mickey commits alien-sanctioned terrorism.
Oh, they're both great. And by
because
both
the
I mean all
Doctor
three.
tells him to do it. I mean, technically the Doctor only tells him to do it because Harriet Jones tells him to do it.
Yeah, it's legally sanctioned.
But I like the fact that Mickey is committing alien-sanctioned terrorism.
Are we going to argue about which one's correct at the end?
Yes.
As per tradition?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, I think so.
So,
World
War III, just as like a continuation from the previous episode.
What's your banger rating?
Oh, I don't think this is quite as much a banger as the other one.
I think it's less of a banger than Aliens of London.
Yes.
However,
absolutely.
on the absolute binary scale of banger schlanger, this is a banger.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think it is a binary scale, but with an extreme on either end.
Mm-hmm.
There's no middle ground.
Absolutely.
I think eventually we'll be forced to pick a middle ground, but it won't be this season.
We're going to watch something that's so horrendously bland that it will force us to neither hate nor love it.
There will be one. I'm sure there will be, and it'll be one that we've forgotten about because it's that mid.
No, entirely right. It'll be like the unicorn or the wasp or whatever. Anyway, carry on.
I think that one's more likable than you.
I don't remember.
You remember it, and therefore, you remember the name of the
There was
episode.
big-
Therefore,
the
it's not going to be
Vespa
mid.
form or whatever.
It's Big Wasp. What's not to love?
That is fair.
Sam.
Likes.
So, the first thing I wrote down is the very start of the episode where the Doctor is badass.
And
his ass is
rips.
bad.
I was going to say in what respect, and I remembered that he survives death.
He's being electrocuted along with everybody else in the room, and he rips the electrocution lanyard off his neck, holds it in his hand while it's still going off, and then yeets it.
And yells, "Not for just for humans," or something to that effect.
Not for humans.
Not for...
He says it like an old Yorkie advert.
I then shortly...
Not for girls.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's brilliant.
I'm pretty sure they had to remove that from all their packaging a long time ago.
Yeah.
So maybe people who are over 20 will understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
People who like Duke Nukem will understand.
That's true.
Who also like men.
Yeah.
Well, because if you like Duke Nukem, you do like men, obviously.
You like men.
Anyway, carry on. We're not going to do that.
So close to going into complete shit territory.
So the next thing I wrote down was, of course, CMGW.
Oh yeah, it was.
It was that. I can't remember which bit I actually wrote it down for initially. It's probably straight away.
There are several moments. I remember you liking the bit where the Doctor stepped into the lift and it played the little jingle as as he did his little.
That was fun. I think I'd already written it down by that point.
Yeah, because that you brought it up as a secondary point.
The initial time we brought it up in this two-parter was when the Doctor was snooping. And all three of us were just sort of making little Snoopy Scooby-Doo movements.
I think that's Harriet Jones snooping.
Was it Harriet
Jones? That was in the
first part, yeah.
No, that's what I mean, is we this night has just been filled with, what was it, CMGW?
Yes.
ICBMs.
ICBMs, which this episode was filled
This
with.
did have an ICBM, yes.
I put in this is where we get to the Harriet Jones bit that you were keen for last episode.
A couple of things about this.
Harriet Jones, I wrote that she is bumbling and fantastic.
Agreed.
There
She's
is a
very
weird
bumbling.
way that she approaches things,
Yes.
which is kind of like she is so set in the way of being a small-time politician that she cannot detach from that even when her life is at stake.
Yeah.
Like she has that bit where the Doctor passes her the drink because the Slithina figured out that triplicating the flammability is a ruse and it won't work. And he goes, Harriet, drink. You'll need this. And she goes, you pass it to the left first or something, or pass it to the right first. And he passes it to Rose. And it's just like the weird dedication to or subconscious dedication to etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that she wants to run back in to get the emergency order things, and then runs straight back into the Slitheen and then panics and lets out one of the funniest screams of the whole series so far, because she's just running, going and looking up and around, completely bewildered. It's great.
It's wonderful.
But she has that big defining moment when she's like, "Take me first."
Yes.
That was very, very,
so
very good.
And the best thing is those other two moments are kind of those slightly bumbling, slightly silly moments where you're kind of baking in those character defining bits.
But that's
But
the
then
bit when
you've
you're
got-
like, okay, this is why she's good.
It's this same exact intention, but it's with a real morally good kind of spine to it, where it's like, oh, she is such a good representative of the people that she is willing to die for even one of them. And she is not in a position where she's powerful yet.
Nope.
She is not a prime minister. She doesn't represent all the people. She represents the people in that room, is about as far as she gets at this point, which I think is really cool.
I like the...
I mean, she also represents the people of Flydale North.
Yes, who we never, ever see in Doctor Who.
Well, we never see
So
the
maybe-
people of it.
An episode set in Flydale North.
We should do that.
No, we never see the people of Flydale North, except for Harriet Jones, obviously.
Yeah.
But we in Journey's End or Still on Earth, one of the
Yeah.
two. Presumably, Harriet Jones's house is in Flydale North.
I don't know if it
She might
is.
move by then.
She's. I would have assumed that she's in London.
Also,
Oh,
there are
fair.
plenty of MPs who no longer live in their constituencies.
I mean, she's also the former prime minister. She's probably somewhere much nicer.
That's true, but also, who knows? Flydale North might be nice.
You've never heard of it, so it could be amazing.
That is true.
It's like this weird utopia on Earth.
Fucking Flydale North.
They produced Harriet Jones. How could they be anything but perfect?
Oh, she's
she
quite
is
good
not
in this
perfect.
episode.
She
No,
is not
she's
perfect,
not.
and that's why she's great.
No, later we'll discover some of the imperfections. But as of these two episodes, she's such a good character.
She's so well written, and she's such a good example of what it looks like, what politicians look like on TV.
Yeah.
You are absolutely sold that this is a politician.
And it is a very real representation of this is a politician, but one of the good ones, as you get. Because she kind of dresses Rose down for being ruthless when she's kind of making light
Excuse me,
of
I have the
things.
quote for that, which is,
You do?
"You're a very violent young woman."
There you go. But she's also the one that gives the command to bomb everyone at the end.
Use a missile on
And
Downing Street.
I think that's a really good early character building moment for her.
Oh yeah,
because
she's ruthless.
she does what is probably the right decision in that moment. But it's kind of hard to say. And she has no idea that any of the people in Downing Street are going to get evacuated, which conveniently does happen thanks to the actions of one very useful police officer.
Yeah,
The
thank
one
God
good
for that
cop.
guy.
Who shoots into the air to alert everyone. But if that guy hadn't done that, most of those people would have been in the blast. I mean, it's kind of... the editing cuts it even very close where you can't really tell if he survives the blast because he kind of stops and looks up and then runs away right before it cuts to the explosion. So he might have been exploded. And that would be Harriet's fault, technically, because she gave the order. So she's kind of willing... She's willing to kind of have the blood on her hands of all the people that were in that building at that time because she knows it will save the world. But I think it's nice to establish that she
would have
a little
passed
bit...
the command holodeck program.
She's
Star
a little
Trek.
bit cutthroat, a little bit ruthless, and I think that's nice. I like that it's kind of beneath the layers of all of her political correctness kind of defaults settings that she's on. Is in a pinch, I will make a decision, and it shows why even though she's the good politician, she's still a politician and still will kill you. Which I think is good writing, because that they would.
Oh, absolutely.
The next I've got down is again, just like we were talking about last episode, Mickey's character growth in this episode.
Oh, his arc in this episode is one of my favourites.
So
in Doctor Who.
good.
Specifically at the end, but we have a lot that builds up to that.
Yeah, the end is like the whole. He very much earns back the sort of bad reputation he's had.
I mean, I touched on this a lot last episode because I jumped the gun a bit, I think.
I think we've been mixing topics.
Yeah,
for
that's kind of the so this is, just to preface, this concept of us watching the two-parter back-to-back and then recording the two podcast episodes back-to-back is that I personally think that having the context of the entire story in play in our minds makes our review stronger.
We
that
should
may
not
change.
Do this with the Flux.
No, we're not going to do this with anything that's longer than a two-parter, I think.
Yeah, you see, I know
It's
nothing
a bit much
about
for a
what the Flux
three-parter.
is, which means that I'm free.
The Flux is technically a five-parter, but it
Oh
also
my
kind
God.
of isn't.
This sounds like that Trial of the Time Lord thing. Do you remember hearing about that from the Sixth Doctor?
No, because
It's like
I
a
didn't watch any Classic Who.
13-part episode, apparently.
Yeah,
or something
that's
like
just not. That's just not it. for
I've
me.
never seen it either because
But-
it looks shit.
But for the sake of a two-part story, I just think that it works nicely that way. We may change that. I think it's open for discussion. This is our test version, and if we like how this feels, we'll do it again. And if we don't, we'll do it as individual recordings per part next time.
yeah,
but
or at least
that'll be why I
individual
jumped the gun
watchings, and
last
such.
time.
We'll sort this out.
But yeah, so I know you talked about a fair amount in the last episode, but most of the character growth that he does get is in this episode.
Oh,
so it's all set up
Tremendously, yes.
in the first episode, and then you get all of this payoff.
And it's really good payoff.
Yeah, and you actually go from thinking, oh, he's a bit of a useless boyfriend, and I don't really care about him, to be like, oh, Mickey's great.
You get to see a lot more of his skill set in terms of he does a lot of hacking, which is somewhat supported by the Doctor, which it needs to be because he is hacking into such high-brow government systems.
I mean,
That him having picked that up in a year on his own would be silly without the Doctor giving him basically console commands. But the fact that the Doctor's able to very effortlessly pilot him through that over the phone demonstrates a lot of ability.
At the same time, like I love that you get the moment like where Rose knows the layout of his kitchen better than he does.
Yeah,
which shows that he's still a bit useless.
And that in the year that they've spent apart, a few days for her, so she's like, your vinegar or your pickled eggs or whatever are on like the third cupboard on the left.
I presume like those pickles must be there for Rose, right? Because he hasn't touched them.
I think they're there for him, and she hates them. My guess is that, like, based on the kind of jokey guy he is, and the fact that he clearly, based on this episode, he clearly likes the football. I picture him as a guy that would go down the pub with some mates, and he'd be a pickled egg guy. You know,
Ooh.
he'd be a guy that would get a pickled egg at a pub, which is not a guy.
Matt,
that
have you ever
necessarily
actually had a pickled egg, or you just
No, it just sounds horrible.
They do sound pretty rank.
and you've not
I've
had
not
one
had
either?
one. I would be open to trying one, but I think they
I'd be
sound
able to try one too,
despicable.
but I agree they sound evil.
They're fine.
But I think they would
they're-
explode me like a Slovene.
They are
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
I am
Like
calcium
they're
based.
not.
Agreed. Creatures
They're
made out of living
not-
calcium.
They're not horrible.
Sorry,
They're just not. I don't care
I
for
just
them.
Sorry,
like,
to
I
speak-
like
The thing is-
normal eggs too much,
Well,
and I
no,
think
I
that's
think the
what
prob-
would ruin it for me.
The problem is, I don't
It'd
really
be a
like.
bad boiled egg.
To speak about
The
the
bigger-
reason why we're talking about this at all, sorry. That entire scene where the Doctor is talking through, hey, what are these things?
Yeah.
Give me info. Narrows it down. That
Yeah,
entire little
okay,
bit
so-
is such an expertly done
It's
bit. It's one of the main
so
bits I remember of the
line.
episode.
I wrote down
Wonderfully
narrowing
done.
down the planet. 'Cause
Narrowing
it's so
down,
Yeah, sorry
good,
to interrupt you, but it was a big part of why we like this
and
episode.
all of us remember
We all-
Raxacoricofallapatorius. In
Yeah,
fact,
that's
some of
crazy.
us were forced to spell it backwards in high school,
That just you.
Yeah, one
as
person.
junior school.
One person on Earth.
Well-
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
actually.
because otherwise, like, my sister and her friends would be like, "Ha ha, you can't spell it backwards," because they could.
Okay,
What?
so like 3 or 4 people.
We're getting this podcast.
We-
At some
we
point is what
really
we
should.
were saying, which I think we should.
I tested her fairly recently, and she can't do it anymore, or couldn't,
Well, here's the
or
thing.
was unwilling.
She'll be here to record the Dalek episode, presumably.
Mm.
She might be.
No, I doubt it.
Oh, fair enough. We'll see how we get in there. But anyway, moving on.
I think that alongside the narrowing it down scene, every time it's part of the setup of Harriet's going to be a future prime minister, of the Doctor being like, where have I heard that name before? But then every time she contributes in that scene, she is making really good assumptions. She is
I think
doing really good detective work.
Rose.
Because she's more experienced and I think a little bit more insightful in those moments. Whereas I think Rose picks up kind of you see across the series, she's quite quick at picking up like kind of the street smarts of time travel. Whereas Harriet is kind of an intellectual person who is very good at the helping the Doctor deduce stuff. And that means that having them both in the room at the same time is really cool. Because Rose has that little bit of intro knowledge of, I've been to other planets and different parts of time with the Doctor. I know the kind of stuff I need to say. And Harriet is completely in the dark, but she is demonstrating that she's a quick thinker and really well kind of like... She has a breadth of knowledge to kind of pull out at a moment's notice. Like the Hannibal thing.
That was funny.
This entire time they're locked in that room is so good. I particularly...
It's like a whole episode, basically. Yeah. It's a box episode.
It's not quite a bottle episode, but it's close.
Box episode.
The other thing I've written down with regards to them being in that room was when Jackie is asking the Doctor, will she be safe? And the Doctor isn't willing to lie to her, so just stay silent and is just pulling her face.
I think that he's kind of mentally willing himself to try to answer but can't do it, so he just gets stuck. He kind of freezes up.
That's kind of and I think that comes across really well from how Christopher Eccleston plays it.
And I think especially that links with the whole theme of the Doctor at the beginning of this series, which is time war trauma. He's got PTSD. When he's asked, can you keep my daughter safe, he's probably remembering
the horrors of the war,
of the people that he killed, and all of the people that killed the people that he liked, and then him killing them, probably millions of times over, because
of the time war and how it should have been.
I think they should redo Heaven Sent, but it's just the Doctor in a loop where he has to like repeatedly kill
Jackie.
He repeatedly has to kill Jackie Tyler.
Some kind of villain putting the Doctor in a loop where he has to relive the like a day of the time war over and over again would be pretty cool.
Especially if it's a day where he did something awful, like
this is going to be.
I think especially if you brought it down to like a personal level, like this is a day where the Doctor had to directly kill an individual. This
not
is
going to come into our
overall
special
genocide.
Because I have I pitched when we came up with the podcast idea that we do a special episode at the end of each showrunner where we try to put in an episode that can go anywhere in that showrunner's tenure. And we try and fill out an episode in the style of that showrunner.
I'm just going to put in Make Love and Monsters 2-part.
Go to Clom.
No, Sam, 3-part.
A 3-part.
Well, we only get one episode.
With our powers combined, we can make it a 4-part because each of our episodes will be the next part of Love and Monsters.
Oh, no. No. If each of our powers, then we're adding another one, which is a 4-part.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Fuck.
They come across this spaceship of podcasters who are on their way to Clom.
I would love to be in Doctor Who as like a weird Clomoid trapped in, presumably a much too small spaceship crammed in with the two of you.
No, we're in a Saturn V.
I imagine we're the Absorbaloff style prosthetics, but like crammed into our normal like cells, so it looks like we just take up the entire space.
Yeah, I think it's got to be something like that.
Anyway.
I also think the spaceship should just look like a space-going version of a bubble car.
I was going to say it's just a Saturn V. Like it's
an actual one.
Not a real
maybe
with
it's
a rocket.
No, it's just my car, but it's got a rocket engine strapped to it.
It's your car, but with a rocket. Like it's the command module of a normal rocket. But like, no, it's a space shuttle. But instead of the shuttle, it's your Mini. Like not and scaled.
So I've got another like.
Moving on.
Hello, I am on a podcast.
Hello, my name is Rishi.
I am going to tell you what I liked about Doctor Who. Sorry, I really like about this episode, but pre-gunge.
The gunge was
this is a pre-gunge moment. Actually, no, I think it is a post-Gunge moment. I don't know. We might be in a post-Gunge world here. Post-Gunge era. So, out of our Gunge era, we get the reveal, which we didn't speak about before because I think it's kind of common knowledge to us for years. The Slitheen are a family.
Yes.
That's not been done. The idea of
Yes.
space aliens that are here to do an evil plot, which is we're unsure whether they're taking over or they're invading at
I
this
wrote
point.
this down.
But them
as well.
being a family is really cool.
Them just being
I
a weird
love
little
it.
mafia family is so good.
Because
It's
actually,
wonderful.
generally across all of science fiction, there's this big tendency for you to go and be like, oh, here's this alien species. And then it's
Here's
like the
what they're
whole
all like.
species is like...
They share like a cultural goal.
And
on
that
like a
makes sense for
species
some
level.
things. You know,
Mhm.
something like the Cybermen, something like the Daleks. That makes sense.
But it
for
doesn't make
those.
sense for us. So why would it have to make sense
Yeah.
for everything?
So, like, why is it... Like we're saying, you know, when we get to Love of Monsters...
Yeah.
Why is it going to be that all of the people of Clom are like the Absolve? What if he's just a weird freak?
I think
Who
he
knows
is.
if there
I
are
think he
people
is.
of Clom?
There are.
There's one.
I've said that they are, and so there it be.
We'll get there. Anyway,
I decree the people of Clom.
I do completely agree that actually what we've got here is a really quite more realistic depiction of how it would be.
Yeah.
In the, oh hey, we're the Raxacoricoraphalopatorians and we are universally, all 15 billion of us, gangsters, which is how Star Trek, the original series, would have treated it.
I like a more Terry Pratchett approach to species.
Right.
Where species are just species and people are just people, even the people that you don't think are people.
Yes, especially the people you don't think are people.
Yeah.
Because you've not thought about it, and so it's going to catch you by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Even dogs.
I really like about this reveal that they're a family, that the next time you see them is framed like a traditional family gathering. The like a blonde fel foch passamir day Slitheen. The one that shows up in Boomtown in our next appearance. Yeah. She's in her human suit still, which I think is like Margaret Blaine or something. Margaret's there, and she's taking everyone's coats, as it were. She's taking their skin suits so they can go in and get changed.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, they're like going in as people, and they're coming out the door as Slitheen, and she's taking the...
That was really fun.
I like that
and
scene.
I love that. I think that's great. Them kind of meeting in the doorways and kind of like exchanging their how are yous and stuff. It's very funny because it's like because they all came down to Earth at the same time. They have all been spread across England, presumably, because they all crash landed.
We don't know why the North Sea Boat Club's president is here.
They parked in London. But that implies that they've just been spread out around, all wearing different skin suits, kind of progressing up the ranks to try and see who could get to the most important positions first. And once that goal was achieved, they all just gathered together like a family should.
They all got close, apart from the president of the yacht club.
Yeah, it's strange that he's here, but okay.
It would have been really funny if
that's a really good point, is the confusion of the press in that scene is really funny.
Oh, it's
I also like that they just have what's his name playing himself.
Oh, yeah, his name was up there, and we did Andrew Marr or some shit.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
something like that.
Andrew Marr.
But
and there's a continuation of real celebrities playing themselves throughout Doctor Who. I mean, we even had it in the most recent episode.
Yeah.
In exactly the same way.
Sorry, I feel like I cut you off on something there, Matt.
Oh, God.
It's gone.
Yeah, no, it is.
The space recession, I wrote as a like.
Space recession.
It
came up in Matt's 5 words.
No, entirely. Space recession motivates space push. I guess that kind of fuels something I could speak about, which is that a thing I did remember being good about this episode before we rewatched it was the blatant Bush and Blair bashing.
Yeah.
That I remember. It's a really neat political commentary that doesn't take up too much of the episode, but it's just enough that I think is excellent.
It's just
excellently
perfectly
scathing.
relevant as well.
Pardon me, sorry. The Prime Minister going, we've looked in the sky and seen weapons of mass destruction, and you're like, oh, I wonder what this is meant to invoke.
I wonder who
Especially
possibly...
because these weapons don't exist.
Yes.
I just think it was really, really well done.
I missed a point earlier.
Oh, yep.
You were talking about some of your classic. We've been calling out all of the Chekhov moments.
Mm-hmm.
Chekhov's prime minister in this episode.
I did write that down.
Did you write it exactly the same?
I wrote Harriet Jones PM Chekhov.
Nice.
But actually, what I was about to mention is the Doctor giving a choice again to the Slovene family.
I wrote that down as well.
And that's before he even realises they're a family, not a species. He's like, well, you can go away if you want, and then you'll all be fine.
He's basically like, leave this planet or I'll stop you. And the I'll stop you, as an audience, we know means he's going to fucking kill you, because that's what he's done to every single enemy so far. Yep. This is something that I hadn't considered, is we're going to be coming up on the 6th episode. So far, the Doctor has murdered everything.
Yeah.
He has not once let something live.
Maybe
so
that's
far.
why Rose gets on with him, because, quote, you're a very violent young woman.
Yeah, and Harriet Jones.
I mean, don't forget the end of the next two parts.
Yeah.
Just this once.
Yeah. But I think it's important, because that, I think, is the first time in this series that people don't die en masse. I think in this episode, he shows an amount of glee when Harriet has her cool speech where she's the only elected representative in the room and she orders him to do it.
I have that speech written down as another great moment. Such
a good moment. But his glee when she says that feels a little bit evil to me. It's a weird time to be grinning.
So my final on here is the Doctor doing Mickey a solid and lying about him not being able to come.
Mickey's refusal of the call to action there
was great.
Is perfect on two counts. The bit you said, of course, which is the Doctor showing solidarity in making sure that he doesn't have to come without making it look like it was Mickey's choice, so that it doesn't emasculate him. A lot of Mickey's growth is about him worrying about how his actions come across to Rose. He doesn't mind at this point being emasculated by the Doctor if it means that he doesn't have to compromise that kind of manliness in front of Rose himself.
Yeah.
But the bit that sets that up is, of course, him being, I guess, man enough. It's a juxtaposition here of him being man enough to say to the Doctor, this is too much to me. I know what it involves now. I've been researching you for a year. I know how dangerous you are and the stuff you get into is, and I'm not ready for it. But don't tell Rose. And I like that as a kind of a weird male bonding thing. It's slightly weird and toxic, but in a way that works very well for flawed characters. And flawed characters are always the best characters. Mm-hmm. So I am really here for that.
Could you imagine Mickey being in the next episode?
It would not work.
No.
He would be too competent compared to the weird British boy
man.
That is there. So yeah, it wouldn't work with him. Even though there is kind of a stand-in for his archetype in that episode too.
Any other likes from this one?
I have the Doctor avoiding familial bonds in this episode comes through very strongly. I nearly said it in the last episode because it came up there as well. Him being overwhelmed by that big gathering of community, because that wasn't direct family, but the establishment of those shots in the episode are showing that the estate has this internal community that is like family, and Mickey being ostracized from that community was hugely detrimental to his life.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor finding that too much is him pushing away community and family. The Doctor not wanting to have dinner with Rose and Jackie when Jackie is softening up to him, and they've had kind of not one-on-one time to bond, but there's a bit of respect, I think, more so than there was before because of her questions about keeping Rose safe. I think he's like, you're a good parent and I respect that. He's got that energy, but he still can't face her, and I think he still can't face the fact that he will make those bonds again if he hangs out with these people too closely, and yet inevitably he is falling into this family nonetheless. And I really think the family aspect is strong, and him pushing it all away because he's not ready mentally yet is really good, especially because we're going to be going into Dalek next episode, and that is like the clinch point, I think, for him realizing how fucked he is PTSD wise.
Yeah.
So I would say this is fantastic setup on that front for Dalek. That ending point of him refusing the family bond, and then going into he's going to meet his oldest enemies again. Is going to be really, really nice.
I'm intrigued rewatching this to see how human society at large being introduced to aliens is handled.
Yeah,
That's a hefty continuity thing, and it seems odd that
it's a hoax.
No, but you know what I mean. It's true, but it's
Downing Street got blown up.
It did.
There's like no repercussions to that from what I remember. It's a hoax.
Well,
it was a hoax.
Unit exists.
I think Harriet Jones basically steps into the massive void that was created by a lot of these.
Yeah,
and I think her probably openly speaking about her experiences is what allows her to have a really strong platform to run for Prime Minister, and also to kind of create some calmness and sense of safety within Britain.
Yeah.
In the fallout of what we did describe last episode as the UK's 9/11. Because if Big Ben wasn't it, blowing up Downing Street definitely fucking was.
Well, Big Ben and Downing Street are both gone.
Yeah.
Right, like that's nuts.
It took us 5 years to paint some gold on that clock.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? How long it would take to fix it?
Referring to Big Ben as a clock.
It is a clock.
No, it is a clock, but it's very funny.
Technically, it's the bell in the clock.
But
you know
who gives? It's a clock. It is a clock. Anyway, does anyone have any negatives?
Oh, I've got a few.
So I'm not a big fan of the Slovene voices.
Oh, the little slippery.
I disagree. I think it
depends on the
really
Slovene.
Work for me.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too.
I like.
It's not a big gripe. It's just they. I just.
Can I try to sell it to you?
Okay.
My sell
if you
is...
spoke to him like a Slovene.
If I did like the Uwu voice, but all Slovene. No, I think that it comes across, especially Margaret's voice, Blonde.
Blonde.
Her voice has this kind of cooing nature to it that feels very much like they're described as they're these ritualistic hunters. They've got this kind of like this cultural obsession with hunting, but it feels like a kind of almost like a baited call to draw prey into a full sense of security, and I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's menacing in a way that isn't scary. It's not like jump scare scary, but it's
edgy.
Like tensiony.
Yes,
scary.
I like how they don't look edgy. They just look.
I hope that gives you a good
weird.
reason of why I like them. It doesn't work for Sam.
Oh, that's okay.
That's fine.
I love the
like,
little puppy.
What have you got for dislikes?
Another Slovene one is I dislike not the CGI Slovene and not the practical Slovene, but the difference between the two. If they had animated, if they'd animated the CG Slovene moving less, they move in a really cool way. I actually really like the way they move as CGI Slovene, but it so doesn't work with what they look like the rest of the time.
There's that one scene, I think it's when Harriet Jones is running away and the practical Slovene is waddling, very clearly like the person in the suit is running in the suit behind her, and then suddenly it's this really animated creature.
Really agile.
That's really agile, and it's like, well, why didn't it just swipe her?
I think that misses the point, because I'm a big fan of them being like really agile, but if they have to be the whole time, and I don't think that works, especially when they've got such good practical effects. They should have maybe had them be less sprint predators and more like humans, where they like wear you down and they outsmart you, and not have them run. They didn't need to have them run. They could have done like you could probably get away with making a slow prowl in the practical suit look really menacing without it being too goofy. I think that would have been cool. So my change for that would be just to remove the CGI.
I have exactly that plan as well.
Keep it for the emerging from the skin suit, because I think that is unavoidable and looks pretty good. As much as I don't like it as the cliffhanger, I think it would be a really nice opening to this episode.
The next thing I've got written down, I just wrote down, the plan seems bad.
Oh, I see. What plan?
The whole plan is to nuke the Earth into
slag.
Into
Yeah.
slag.
They want it to be radioactive.
Why not just
specifically?
Why not
That's
just
their-
nuke the moon?
It feels
right?
like
Or Mercury.
aliens with the technology to travel between the stars should be able to pretty easily manufacture nuclear
and probably
arsenal.
much stronger than what we can put out.
Yeah.
They can probably fuck up our planet a lot easier than we can.
So
Right?
it leads into. I think the family are incompetent.
I'm
down with that.
I would put it this way. It kind of makes sense, but for reasons that are not yet established in the series, which is why it feels a bit dodgy. And those reasons are Torchwood already exists and Unit already exists, and Torchwood in the Christmas episode are able to blast the Sycorax ship out of the sky in one shot with their Death Star laser. And assuming that there are any organizations like that on other countries of Earth, if the Slovene, they're technologically advanced enough that they probably, you could say they know about some of our defenses. They might know that it's actually a safer bet to sneak in and do it from the inside.
Right, sure. But then the whole thing where they've revealed themselves too soon.
Yeah.
And the way they've gone about it with, like that, getting the code via making a TV announcement.
I think that
I know why they've
realistically that would not have worked. I don't think the UN would release the nuclear codes to England based on the vague notion that there might be a ship above them with no proof.
Imagine Rishi Sunak comes on
and he's like, they could bomb us within 45 seconds.
I need the
Our best
nuclear
boffins
codes.
can scramble the mothership's
I
plans.
need the nuclear code so I can nuke the poor because they've been infected by aliens.
We can hold off the poor for a few moments, but we don't know for how long, so we must have the code.
Rishi Sunak speaking on July 3rd.
That's a really good impression of Rishi. That's definitely what he sounds like, and that's not at all silly.
Well, he's a posh twat.
Yeah, but I don't think my impression was twatty enough.
Yeah, well, we're not posh enough to be Rishi.
It's true. I would like a few
richer than the
billion
fucking
pounds.
king. What
Anyway,
a wanker.
Wanks aside, I think that the plan is bad mainly in the way they approach manipulating people into giving them the codes. But you could maybe say that's them not fully getting the way that our planet.
You also
and our
feel like,
society
why have you
functions.
targeted the UK? I mean, I know they've targeted the UK because it's Doctor Who.
Yes.
But surely targeting either America or Russia, who have significantly larger nuclear arsenals.
Way more sense.
Like, and they do episodes later set in America, but I get why they haven't done it this season.
They avoided it pretty heavily because they did a very bad job of CGing bits of America into probably Cardiff, where they shot it when they were doing the Daleks in Manhattan stuff. So you could tell that they struggled with that. I mean, the next episode's set in America, and they spend the entire time in a bunker.
They do
because they can't show any above ground architecture.
I don't think it's really till 11 that they're properly in America for a while.
Yeah, and that was shot in America.
Yeah, because they went there,
and that was because they were also marketing the show to America for the first time. So there was a big push for America to be more involved in the show.
America was already getting into it a fair amount before.
Yes, but I don't think it had ever been aired there at the same time. So I think that might have been a big push. Either way, America being involved here is awkward as well, because it can't fit in with a storyline where Rose comes back to Earth again very easily, without her then having to leave Jackie and Mickey behind again, and then you lose out on that really nice character development. It'd be harder to introduce a character like Harriet Jones.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But then you could just change their plan and their goals to not be nuking the Earth into oblivion. Like, what if their goals are, like, more... Not even, like... Maybe it's not even world-threatening. Maybe they just want to, like, take the UK because they're like...
Oh, I thought you meant, like, pull it off of the planet and, like, just
literally.
I'm fine with that.
They're like...
That's so stupid. Although, I kind of like the idea of they were going to sell off the world as scrap, right? What if they are actually just, like, they're trying to get into positions of power across the world so that they're in a position where they can, like, they have enough power to just say, oh, the aliens have come down and we're actually selling them this chunk of Earth. And then, like, a ship comes down and starts, like, excavating out a shit ton of Earth. and they're just like, yeah, we've sold them like 15% of like the British Isles.
See, that seems like a better plan.
It's a weirder plan as well, which I kind of like.
They're a weird family.
Yeah. And then it makes the Boomtown plot of also nuking Earth to be less samey.
Yeah.
Because I believe in Boomtown she's trying to nuke Earth to then surf home on a space surfboard.
Yes. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And her little model of like the nuclear power plant that she's proposing to build is built on the surfboard, and they like pull up the model and flip it over, and it's like a circuit board that you stand on. It's a space surf. It's really stupid. But I think that plot I prefer to this one, because that is so out there, and I think that they are too samey. So I support Sam's idea of changing their goal in this episode a little bit.
Maybe
so
it just, I think
I like the idea
for
of them
profit,
selling off bits of the planet for profit.
I think,
but maybe as we have taken over the planet's authority, so we can just give it away.
I think the bigger problem with it is the fact that they're trying to get these nukes and they're doing it through Britain. They could even just have like, say they've got family members elsewhere around the world.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been it. That would have made sense. Yeah.
It's an interesting way of taking it. It'd be a shame to lose the nukes angle entirely, because it's nice to have Harriet be very like vocally against Britain having nukes.
Mood.
I always think is a nice thing to put in. Anytime Doctor Who can be a little bit lefty, I'm like, nice. Especially with
I'll be so angry when we get to Chibnall.
You know. Especially with their stand-in politician character as well. It means more from her, I think, than from anyone else.
Yeah. The final dislike I've got was
I've got a few.
The Wi-Fi linked submarine that you can just launch missiles from remotely without any interaction with the crew on board.
Okay.
And all your only password you need is Buffalo.
Whether it's Wi-Fi linked or not is not clear. Mickey is able to access it via a computer, whether the computer... Because the computer's logged into Unit's stuff, whether Unit is broadcasting something else that overrides the...
But why can you log into Unit remotely to launch missiles?
Because it's the Doctor's super secret login.
Buffalo.
It is a shit password. I have to say, like, they have so many better passwords later on in Doctor Who that are like just gobbledygook and weird stuff. Buffalo is bad. I didn't know. I was going to ask you guys if that's a reference to Classic Who.
I don't think so.
I assume it's not, but it could have been a reference to Classic Who because it's a Unit.
I don't think
all
so.
the words
think
that
it's
lock
some,
in
US thing.
Donna's memory block. I.e. jam 10 times.
Jam. So I have a few dislikes.
Jam.
I have the Doctor would have been shot in the lift.
Immediately.
There are a couple of moments in this episode where the Doctor is allowed to speak for just slightly too long, and if you cut those sentences shorter, the comedic moment still works, and it doesn't feel completely unreasonable. But all of the soldiers pointing guns at him who have been told to kill him.
On site.
And then on site, and waiting, and then he speaks for 20 seconds, then steps backwards into a lift. I'll allow him to close the lift very quickly using the sonic, because they showed that instead of him pressing a button. That's a good choice. They can still shoot through the door of the lift. So it's like it doesn't make sense if they just cut that to speed it up a little bit, where like they catch him up and he's like, "Don't stand me next to a lift," and then goes in, but like as they're coming around the corner, so that would work better.
Yeah,
I get why they did it. It just they were told to kill him on sight. It's ridiculous. It's completely like the rest of the episode is very tight.
Maybe all of their brains were working slow because they'd been gassed so much.
Maybe. I have another one. The Doctor doesn't smell. There's a scene where Blonde is hunting Rose and Harriet, and then there are two of her brothers coming to join her, and she's saying like, "Oh, I smell you," with her little wobbly voice that Sam hates. And the other two walk past the Doctor, who is hiding just behind a bit of door, and they don't smell him. Then, and I thought, oh, that's a bit silly. Then later in the episode, that other Slitheen tracks Jackie across the estate by smell alone, is the implication.
Yep.
So he can smell, they can smell humans and differentiate them incredibly well, but they can't smell the Doctor when he's right next to them, and that feels weird. It could be that Time Lords aren't smelly.
Wait, have we ever had a time when the Doctor has been smelt?
I don't know. I genuinely not yet. Certainly not yet.
If the Doctor is smelt, we should try and remember to note that.
So this is what I'm suggesting. We don't change it, but the Doctor does not smell strong for the rest of Doctor Who.
I agree with committing to that.
I think that they've established it. The Slitheen also can feel each other, which was really strongly established in here. I didn't catch it at the beginning. Matt pointed out that when they're getting electrocuted, it affects all of them, even the ones that aren't being physically
they know when
shocked.
one of them dies.
They know when one of them dies.
Gunges.
They feel it. When one of them becomes just buckets of gunge all over Jackie Tyler.
Total.
It's so like they're made of calcium, so you can put vinegar on them, and you're expecting
they'll melt a bit,
melt them, something like
but
that.
They explode.
But it's not just explode.
No skeleton, no organs, just bits of flesh and
just gunge.
Wet.
But it's not even just. It's
claws.
It's not just throw
what
it on
happened to the
explosion.
claws?
They turn into gunge.
It's throw it on, wait.
Yeah.
Explosion.
Yeah, because it has to. All of the insides have to liquefy and build up enough gas to explode the outer skin. That's my assumption.
I see.
Right? Surely.
I don't know. I've never been gunged by a Slitheen explosion.
Me too. I've never exploded into
the final dislike I had.
When we eventually get to Clom, we should pop across to Raxacoricofallapatorius
and ask them
and
about their physiology.
Well, no, see if we can gunge ourselves.
Oh, okay.
I was just thinking a bit of casual murder. You were thinking ask their scientists. I'm just like casual murder.
Yeah.
Well, I do spit on them.
That's right.
No, entirely. Like denizens of Clom gunge others.
They do.
Whereas Raxacoricofallapatorians are gunged.
They get gunged.
They do.
We actually.
I have one more dislike.
It's
a follow-on.
Let's get through the dislikes.
It's a follow-on from my previous one of the Doctor being allowed to talk too long, which is that the Slitheen let him talk a lot in that doorway.
Yeah.
After they've realised that the alcohol thing is false.
Yep.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they have just had a whole scene establishing that they are into ritualistic hunting.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like they're hunting anymore, which is weird. Later when he opens the door again and Blonde is back in her Margaret suit and she talks to them, it's kind of like she's back in her suit and she's in charge of the other ones who are like her family members. She's like more important family member, yes, senior or something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, they're allowing her to have the conversation because she's kind of in charge. It's weird before then, when they're all in hunting mode and they've been talking about how they're excited to hunt and they're excited to be naked and do all the silly. Why do they let that happen for so long? I don't know what you'd need to change there, but it feels like it needs to be.
I'm fine with that. I remember thinking that would have been really neat if, when the Doctor opens the metal door, if the Slitheen were there playing some alien equivalent of cards, like waiting at the door. That would have been really funny.
I think what might be a good change is if when he shuts the door, one of the Slitheen lunges for him and its claw gets
snapped.
cut off.
That would have been neat.
Because it adds back they were talking, but they were like kind of the spring was set and they were ready to pounce at any moment. And the moment it seems like the tension's ready to break, they lunge and he does his shut the door thing. I think that just would have there being some action there to kind of close out that little conversation would have been nice.
That would have been neat. I'll agree with that.
But that's all of my dislikes and changes.
So changes wise, there's a couple of other things I've got.
Yeah.
12 years of Harriet Jones.
Yes. Okay. Oh God, I forgot about that.
No, we'll get there when it's contradicted. I think
it's said at the end of the episode that she gets 3 terms.
3 terms. She's
as Prime Minister, which is at this point 12 years.
Yes.
So that implies that she should be in office for 12 years. And so the moment she's not in office and we get there, that means we are 12 years from once she's Prime Minister. which then that has to be within the time before we get to the Master.
I think Matt brought up that the Master comes here with a paradox machine and then instills himself.
But we'll have to bring this up then. Is
yes,
what I'm saying.
okay. No,
this is more something to bring up later. And then, like, I think...
But also bear in mind that she is certainly, post-paradox machine, not the Prime Minister anymore.
No.
By the end of Donna's run, which was not set 12 years after this one.
No,
I would like...
definitely.
Which is also... It's one less year because this is 2006, but it's still airing in 2005.
Yeah, right?
The other thing is, I want more... Again, this is something in future, is more creatures that are just a living element and can just be killed by a chemistry.
Yeah, sure. Just more calcium, but something that really reactive with water, and they have to sit in a little oil tube so that they don't explode on Earth.
See, that could be quite fun.
That would be funny.
Then also, final change. No, I've got a couple more. Sorry. So the next time, I think shouldn't show the Dalek.
I agree. I think that is.
It should be revealed in the episode. I think that's now 2 next times in a row where they've spoiled stuff that they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Because the rest of that next time is really good, and then if they just cut the end bit when they show the Dalek.
It's only because it's different contextually. I think the last episode we talked about the fact that 2-parters should not have a next time in the middle.
Yeah.
But with this, it's more that this is the first time that the reboot is bringing back the most iconic villain, so you shouldn't spoil it. That's the only reason.
Yeah, exactly.
In other episodes, showing the villain wouldn't necessarily be bad, although I think anytime that something iconic is there, I think it should be kept as a mystery.
Explicitly because it's the first time the Daleks are back.
Because I'll be keeping an eye out for this when we get to the Cybermen as well.
So, my final change is Jackie is offering to make a shepherd's pie for the Doctor. She should offer to make beans on toast.
God, you got me there. That's a good point.
She should offer to make beans on toast. Simple as.
He is an alien, and she doesn't know whether he eats grass or pins and needles.
No, it was staple pins.
Yeah, grass
safety pins.
Or safety pins.
Safety pins.
So maybe beans on toast is your tester because you know that it's a staple.
And he's just been out murdering. He wants to come home and he wants to have beans.
Are there any other changes we have recommended?
If on that note the podcast ended forever, that would be really funny.
Just done. Yeah.
And we never did it again.
So, never could.
Never could? Oh, you're doing your quotes?
No, so my first quote is, I think they're all dead.
The specialists and such.
When everybody in all of the politicians and stuff have died in that room and the Doctor's run off. Oh no, he's not run off yet. He's still in the room, and the Slovene at the front is like, I think they're all dead. When the guards come in to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
as if
my
it's not
quote
obvious.
is, if you'll pardon the word.
Oh, that's a good one. Twice in the same line.
I think it's either in the elevator or shortly after, the Doctor goes hello and just this massive smile. So I've even drawn a little smile to represent his massive smile when he says it.
Show me, I need to see it.
It must have been before the shoot on site. Because I've written shoot on site after that. Hello, and a big smiley face.
Very good.
I've got one that's a Harriet Jones quote that I think it represents our feelings about the Raxacoricothalapatorians from a Clom perspective.
Yes.
Which is, listen to me, I'm saying Slovene as if it's normal.
That was a very good
because
one.
Because Clomoids, we don't respect them.
Oh, agree.
I've written shoot on site, but I very explicitly again drew a little picture of the man's face upon saying it.
Oh god, just those characters have... No, yeah, those characters were really well done. And by well done,
to clarify, what I've drawn is 2 circles next to each other with a straight line underneath.
Just a completely dead line face.
I've
got, it's the thing! The Slickeen!
Oh god, I wrote that one down as well.
That's a classic Jackie one.
I did write it's the Slickeen, but before that we've got Mr. Chicken. He was a nice man.
Yeah!
He
the guy that built the super bunker
what?
room.
No, he built Downing Street.
He used to live where Downing Street was built.
Right.
Before they built Downing Street, Mr. Chicken used to live there, and
Right,
he was
okay.
a nice man.
I just remember it's in the monologue where he explains the super bunker,
Which is like-
silly.
We should have an episode again. This is my. I want to insert an episode where we visit Mr. Chicken.
You're going to have to write these ideas down for when we do our special episode. It's going to be a long wait because the special episode will be at the end of Russell's run as showrunner.
I know.
And there's going to be so many...
It'll be at the end of season 1.
I wrote down the
we're doing
line
a special episode after each show.
when the Slitheen in the cop skin is talking to the other coppers and he goes, I haven't quite finished with Mrs. Tyler yet.
Which definitely sounds like he's going to assault them.
It sounds like he's going to.
And the other cops do nothing because they're bastards.
Yeah, because they're cops. And they're bastards.
I've got. You kiss this man when they're listing out all of the pickled items in Mickey's fridge.
Mickey, you were born in the dark.
I've got Mickey the idiot. The world is in your hands. I like that line. It's nice.
Raxacorico Fallopatorius.
I've got. He's good in a crisis. I'll give him that because I like Jackie coming around on the Doctor, but in a like I suppose he did save the world. Fine.
Good luck.
Was that another Slitheen? Could you do that with a bit more gargle?
I think it was while he was in the skin suit,
Okay.
so it was
That's a
just...
shame. Wasted potential. That's my change for this episode, is that he should have got undressed just to say it.
Oh, bot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, bot.
There was the conversation of whether he was going to say bollocks or bother.
No, it's definitely bollocks.
It was definitely
bother
bollocks.
is more funny.
I kind of also like the idea of him just going, "Oh, balls."
Balls is
could have been balls. You gotta always consider the balls just in case.
Remember that Ed Balls beat Harriet
All
Jones
right,
in the
then.
MP.
Do you remember that Ed Balls tweeted Ed Balls after this episode was made? That's crazy.
Oh, Ed Balls Day is like...
Not immediately afterwards, just chronologically.
No. I think
this
he
episode.
did this immediately.
12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was back when
But
Twitter
he
was called Twitter.
actually queued it up in 2005.
Ready to
Right
send.
after World War III, he was like, he was like, I better search my name quick, and he searched Ed Balls, and then he was like, oh no, that's a tweet. I'm just going to postpone that for like 7 years.
So, yeah, that concludes our quotes. I think. Oh no, did I do? All right then, him too.
What's that in relation to?
I can't remember.
Right,
Towards the end, that's the
final
last
banger
quote I
rating.
wrote.
I say this is a banger. I say this is a regular banger.
Me too, regular banger.
I
think
Absolutely
that's-
not an absolute banger.
Perfectly good episode.
Perfectly fine.
Final quote. What are you all putting forwards?
I'm going to put forwards.
Where's my notebook? Come here.
I mean, I think it's got to be the Slickeen.
Mine is definitely, if you'll pardon the word.
I think I'm also going with It's the Thing, the Slickeen. So
Now, what are we voting for, quote-wise? What do you reckon?
Well, we just had 2 votes for the same thing already.
It's
I've
the
kind of
Slickeen.
de facto done the vote, but it was my favourite of the
Now, what about
quotes that I'd
the
recorded.
5-word summary?
5-word summary.
Well, let's do a recap, shall we?
Recap.
Indeed. My 5-word recap was space recession motivates space bush.
I had Harriet Jones, future Prime Minister.
I had Mickey commits alien-sanctioned terrorism.
I do like that one. What do you think, Sam?
I'm going to vote for myself.
Harriet Jones, future Prime
I'm not
Minister.
doing it again. I'm voting for myself this time.
Harriet Jones,
I'm
future
doing
Prime
a
Minister.
capitalism, and
I
I'm voting
think
for me.
that I'm going to vote for Kamal.
Woo!
Oh, terrible.
Because you guys all voted for Harriet Jones last time.
Oh yeah, we
My
did.
Harriet Jones gambit did not pay off.
It did last time.
No, but part of my gambit was that by doing it twice, the third time would be the charm.
Oh, I see.
Oh, but no. Here's
you
the
tried
thing.
to
No,
play a long
Kamal,
game, but my
Kamal,
brain
no.
is short
No,
and
but
smooth.
no, Kamal.
I see.
If he wins this time, that means that eventually we'll have Harriet Jones, current Prime Minister, and we'll also have Harriet Jones, ex-Prime
Here's
Minister.
the thing, that will still happen.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
And the thing is, if Sam doesn't do it, I will. Like we're all, the thing is, next time she shows up, the chances that we all write down something to do with her introduction.
My brain is completely erased.
We're just
Did we have any
Harriet killed.
changes that we agreed upon for this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought this was
you
pretty cool.
were basically asleep.
I
at that
was
point.
asleep,
You were like
yeah.
you were dying.
I was. I'm sleepy. But,
I wonder how you're sleepy.
always. But,
Same, to be honest.
well, here's the thing. I don't know. Again,
So what's our final 5-word summary there?
if it's
No,
what
I
we
think
voted
it's.
on,
I think it's Kamal's.
it's Mickey commits alien-sanctioned terrorism.
I agree.
Thoughts on Russell's writing of this episode? I think he
good.
closed it out pretty good.
No, me too.
We did have some slight gripes with the plan that the Slovene are actually following, but it's fine. Like, it's not a problem.
The same thing that I
And
said about Russell a lot.
thing
Russell's episode 1 is a lot better than episode 2.
Yeah.
Always in his two-parters.
I think in general,
it's fine.
It's
not
more
bad.
that it's more like because the alien plot isn't the important part of what you get from watching these 2 episodes. It's much more about the main and side characters getting loads of development. That it really doesn't matter that the alien plot is a little bit janky, and it's more important that it just kind of hits all the right beats whilst letting the characters shine, and that works very well. And as for Mr. Boak, Monsieur Boak,
I think
Hitler himself.
I think Hitler 3, Keith Boak.
Okay, because we got Hitler 2.
Hitler 2 is what was his Euroslin, yeah. I think we should stop that. But anyway,
I think started it. You brought it back.
No, I think we.
It will go away if you stop it.
No, I think we should stop this. I think that
just like Hitler stopped himself.
No, he did. He
John Lennon.
He did check if his skull was bulletproof.
Modern Doctor Who. We've finally seen John Lennon on screen, which means we might see John Lennon kill Hitler.
I thought you were about to say
we've seen Hitler on screen when they put him in a cupboard. So they could put John Lennon and Hitler in a cupboard together, and then you'd open it and they'd both be dead. And you'd never know. You should share this episode with someone who's got one toenail that's significantly longer than the others.
Like a cracked toenail?
Yeah, I think that's...
Do people do that?
People who deserve to listen to this podcast definitely do. And they need it shared with them immediately. Don't even breathe. Just send it to them right away.